everyone, I'm Allie Ashley, and this is a follow-up video to my testimonial about experiencing the promise as Neville Goddard describes it. And I wanted to do this because some crazy cool things have occurred since that last video, and one of which I will go into detail about here. And the reason I wanted to share this is, Neville says, share it with the world, so I feel that it's my duty to do that as an earthling here on this amazing planet. But I also think that there's a lot of us out there who are seeking case studies and examples and real life stories about the law of assumption and the law of attraction and how it's working for other people. And I also wanted to reiterate or just mention in this video that I don't think it really has to do much with the promise of what I've been experiencing, but really what Neville talks about when he says one experiences the promise, that they will find themselves pure of heart. And I kind of take that, where you're just leading with love instead of fear. And it's very hard to stay long in the mindset of fear. So when you experience the promise, it's almost like an automatic thing that happens where you're just flooded with thoughts of love and the fear pretty much goes away. And so the lesson I would like to convey here is you don't need to experience the promise to make some incredible things happen in your life and to manifest your dream life, essentially. But what you do need to do is always choose love over fear. And it's kind of like you can have the promise happen to you, and then you're suddenly almost unable to have these bad feelings in you, right? The fear, the hate, all that stuff. And it's just so much easier to conjure up feelings of love. It's immediate, it's automatic, it's always on my mind. And I really do believe that this is why I am suddenly manifesting all these wonderful things, because even though it has been about 3 years or so since I found Neville Goddard and have been actively meditating and doing all these things, I'm human. I was still flip-flopping and sometimes having negative thoughts and such. And I firmly believe this is why I'm suddenly manifesting all these wonderful things, because love is almost always on my mind. So I'm not only an avid believer in the law of assumption, I'm also a voracious consumer of all things loosely related to this way of thinking and being. So like psychology and understanding religions across the world have long been a passion of mine. And one of my favorite teachers is Eckhart Tolle. And recently I was watching a video where he was talking about the idea of awakening. And he was essentially making the point that when you let your mind control you, rather than you controlling your mind, meaning succumbing to mind chatter or inner dialogue. And this inner dialogue is usually worries of the future or lamenting about the past, rather than living in the present moment and being grateful for that moment. Then he says that this mind chatter or inner dialogue is actually you being in a state of hypnosis. And so his point is, when you consciously stop this mind chatter, that is when you awaken from a deep sleep or hypnosis, and many, many people who walk this earth are in this default state of sleep, just like I was. So once you understand how your mind creates your own reality and how your thoughts actually become your reality, and we stop doing all that mind chatter and control our mind, we wake up. And so that's what he says is awakening, as the, many, many thought leaders, philosophers, and such in the past years have described. So I find this to be a really good explanation of how truly simple it is to take control of your 3D by way of taking control of those thoughts. He goes on to say that oftentimes awakening happens after one has undergone serious suffering. And I think this is definitely my story. In comparison to many people, my suffering seems mild, but for me at the time, it was my rock bottom. And I found myself in a state of reality that was really, really hard to be in. I found myself once again a single mom. I was battling 2 court cases at once, simultaneously, from my exes. And then on top of that, I was being slowly phased out of my position at work due to my company struggling with basically the aftermath of COVID. And so, I wasn't living my best life. But what devastated me the most was the loss of trust, seemingly for everyone in my closest circles. I realized that the few close friends I had really turned out to be wolves in sheep's clothing, and they were really only using me for what I could give to them, because I was an insatiable people pleaser at the time. And so it took about a year after I found Neville and started my mental diet for me to realize this. So that's a long lesson. But once I did, I knew there was no going back to how I was. The only thing I could do was give in, take a leap of faith, let go, and focus on loving myself and others unconditionally, which means having love for them and seeing them in the very best light and just forgetting or rewriting, rescripting any bad version of them that I could conjure up. And to this, I really had to cut a lot of people off, unfortunately or fortunately, so I could focus on the best versions of them. And so that progressed into me having a true feeling of love and gratitude for those who have wronged me. And on top of that, I started taking care of my body and my mind. And I didn't only study Neville. There are so many facets to this understanding, but I promise you, if you are drawn to this and you keep going, you're going to find the freedom you are seeking. So for me, there was also Wayne Dyer, which led me to Lao Tzu, which led to studying the Kabbalah, which brought me back to my previous study of Carl Jung. When I was in graduate school, I had actually co-led a Jungian dream analysis group. And at that time, I had no idea how helpful it would be to me now. But yeah, really cool stuff. Highly recommend that. And so I really started honing in on the idea of living a loving lifestyle with all of these things that these teachers were saying. They were all saying the same thing, all basically saying, lead with love, choose love over fear, which that actually got me looking more into Abraham Hicks, who I know many of you are probably familiar with. And from there, something really profound clicked. I fully forgave my second husband and felt deep love and appreciation for him. And I expressed this to him face to face and forgave myself for harboring such resentment for those past 3 or so years. And almost as soon as I did that, I experienced the final sign of the promise, the dove. And I made my first video on this channel, and then really immediately, and I'm talking days later, I met my current partner who checks every single box from a journal entry I wrote 2 years ago. So we could think of this like a vision board or something, but it was simply a list that I made, basically a script of who I would meet in the future, and I titled it Life Partner. And it was not a short list. There was about 40 qualities of this person. And so within Neville or manifestation circles, this is known as an SP or a specific person. And so this list is not shallow. It's extremely specific. And the reason why I had dated several men over the past 2 years since my divorce, was because I was really I just knew that I would get it. I would get this guy, but I didn't know when or how or what way. So I would date people and then I would stop seeing them because they would not fit the qualities of this list. I became very, very picky. And my rule for myself was I wouldn't compromise on any qualities, but I really, really wanted to find someone like this. So that's an example of having faith and believing that it's going to occur, even if you're not seeing it in your 3D. I did not settle. And so if you're familiar with Abraham Hicks, this is described as putting something into your vortex. It's a desire, a want. And if you're not familiar, the concept is essentially this. We have a lot of wants and desires in this world that we have imagined over time, probably since we were children. And the universe acknowledges this and wants to give us these things, but we're not really aligned with that feeling of having those things, or we're not aligned with the right tuning to receive them. And so if we're feeling lack, then the universe says, hey, you're sending out the vibration of lack. We'll be sure to give you more lack and not give you those things you want. So in effect, Abraham describes it as being tuned into a radio station. So let's say you really want to listen to hip hop, but your dial is tuned to a classical station. Guess what you're going to hear? Not hip hop, right? You're going to hear classical music. And we can think of our vibrations or emotions we send out in the same way. If we're tuned to anger or jealousy or lack or hatred or failure or resentment or fear, we're going to get more of those back. This is why love is key. This right here is how you can manifest your dream life. If you take away anything from this video, love is key. Love gives us good feelings, good emotions, like happiness, joy, relief. And when we are broadcasting these feelings, we are tuned to those feelings. Then the universe will give us more things that create those feelings back. And so we have a whole collection of things that we've stored up in our minds over our lifetime that we believe will bring us happiness, joy, relief, gratitude, security, love, freedom, and so on. And so the universe is going to give those desires to us when we're tuned to love or those other feelings. That's manifestation in a nutshell, you guys. You can manifest good things or bad things. The universe is just registering your vibration, brought on by thoughts and emotions. Like Neville says, feeling is the secret, right? And so it will give you back whatever you broadcast. Are you feeling love and gratitude? Great. You're going to get more stuff that will bring about those feelings. If you're feeling hate or fear, okay, no problem. The universe will give you that back. It's seriously that simple. Techniques are wonderful for helping one get into that belief and that mindset, that feeling of whatever it is you want to manifest. But in my experience, it's really about what you're putting out there emotionally. Good or bad, it's going to come back to you. But back to my dream man and the vortex. So 2 years ago, I wrote that list, meaning this ideal person was just floating around in my vortex this whole time. The universe knew I wanted him, but he didn't appear until very recently, pretty much like days after I recorded my testimonial of the promise. And so far, he is the most compatible partner I have ever had, and I am incredibly grateful for him. He even possesses qualities of a partner that I had put into the vortex years and years and years ago, but never added to my list because they were so specific. And frankly, I forgot about a lot of them. So I laugh to myself almost every day about, oh wow, he's right here, right there, right in front of me. And what it took was me loving myself and loving everyone else for me to see him. So, he existed, and this place, he's only like 30 miles away from me too, so it's not like I had to travel far to meet this guy. And I barely had to lift a finger. I did lift a finger because I met him on a dating app, but I found the man I always wanted, and I didn't even know I did. We make a great match, and at this point, yes, it's still very new, but no matter what the duration of the relationship, I believe it will last a lifetime. The cool thing is, I still had my exact wish fulfilled. So these days, I have little stress and little fear, and I know everything will work out in my favor. It always does. And that's what I hope you all take away from this. Broadcast love. Really feel it, and truly watch those negative thoughts. Some call them the 7 deadly sins, and they say that for a reason. You will be living in hell right here on earth if you succumb to them, to the point where they may kill you from stress and just circumstances that you're conjuring up. So instead of doing that, lead with love and do not let fear take over your mind. Wake up, friends. You're in full control of your own reality. So go forth and believe in your own power and focus on love, and then relish in the paradise you will begin to create for yourself.